Deving Ramakrishnam Jagatgurum Padupadmitayo Sritva Pranamami Murmu. So we have punched together two memorial lectures right now. One is my teacher, Adhyapak Professor Pradyot Kumar Bandyopadhyay. He is a teacher of Sanskrit at Narendrapur College. And another, Sri Girijashankar Shukla, G.A. Shukla ji. In a way, he was my mentor, because I received so much of instructions from him as to how to live in this beautiful world like a true human being. Because I used to know him from my studentship days there, and when I started teaching and used to meet him on the road mainly, but when I became the principal, then he became my friend, very intimate friend, because he used to feel forlorn, almost. I had to give him association, company, good company, and he used to exchange so many words, but he was really a man of vision. Now, Adhyapak Pradyot Kumar Bandyopadhyay and Girijashankar Shukla, Sarak Bhaktita. Adhyapak Pradyot Bandyopadhyay জন্ম আনুমানিক 1935 খ্রিস্টাব্দে বাংলাদেশের ফরিদপুর জেলায় প্রত্যন্ত গ্রামে এক দরিদ্র পরিবারে জীবনে শৈশবে মা বাবাকে হারিয়ে অনাথ, সেই সময় স্মল পক্সে তার চোখ দুটিও ছোটবেলা থেকে দৃষ্টিশক্তি থেকে বঞ্চিত। তিনি পড়াশোনা করতেন প্রেসিডেন্সি কলেজে অঙ্ক নিয়ে, কিন্তু বিএ অনার্স পাস করার পর ম্যাথামেটিক্সে আর তিনি বোর্ড দেখতে পেতেন না। হি কুড নট সি দ্য writings on the board. Then he changed to Sanskrit, because Sanskrit was one of his past papers. And he became a very famous Sanskrit teacher. He used to teach over here also. He stood first class second. আর দেশভাগের সময় ভাগ্য অন্বেষণে প্রায় কপর্দক্ষিণ অবস্থায় কলকাতায় আসা এবং স্বামী লোকেশ্বরানন্দজির পাতুরিয়াঘাট আশ্রমে স্থান পাওয়া। তারপর নরেন্দ্রপুর 1960-তে নরেন্দ্রপুরে কলেজ শুরু হলো এবং তিনি সেখানে শিক্ষকতা করলেন। কলকাতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের তিনি অতিথি অধ্যাপক হয়েছিলেন। দেখুন, তার অনার্স ছিল না, পাস কোর্স ছিল, সেটা সাবজেক্ট, 5 সাবজেক্টস অনার্সে, কিন্তু শুড ফার্স্ট ক্লাস সেকেন্ড। তার জন্যই তাকে অধ্যাপক করা হয়েছিল। এই সময় তিনি পিএইচডি করেন বাংলা ইংরেজিতে এবং এমএ পাস করেন বাংলাতে, কাব্য মহাতীর্থ পাস করেন। এই ইনস্টিটিউট অফ কালচারের স্কুল অফ ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজে সংস্কৃত শিক্ষক ছিলেন 2010 সাল পর্যন্ত। এবং তিনি চোখে দেখতে পেতেন না বটে, কিন্তু মাধ্যমিক পরীক্ষার প্রধান পরীক্ষক, হেড এক্সামিনার, কলকাতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের পরীক্ষক, গেস্ট লেকচারার, বিভিন্ন বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের প্রশ্নপত্র তৈরি, ব্যাংকিং সার্ভিস কমিশনের উত্তরপত্রের মূল্যায়ন ইত্যাদি এইভাবে দেখতেন। আমরা বলতাম, মাঝে মাঝে রাস্তায় পড়েও যেতেন। তিনি যে হ্যান্ডিক্যাপ সেটা তিনি বুঝতে দিতেন না। ব্যক্তিগত জীবনে আবৃত্তি, নাটকে বিশেষ পারদর্শী ছিলেন, গণিতে ছিল প্রগাঢ় উৎসাহ। রবীন্দ্রনাথের কবিতা তার অনর্গল ধারায় বেরিয়ে যেত মুখ থেকে, এবং আমরা সংস্কৃতের কোনো প্রবলেম যখন পারতাম না, কোনো শব্দের মানে টানে, তখন তার কাছে যেতাম। দেখুন, প্রায় অন্ধ মানুষ, তিনি আমাদের সহায়ক ছিলেন। স্মৃতিশক্তি ছিল প্রখর, লম্বা কবিতা অনায়াসে পড়তে মুগ্ধ করতেন, অনায়াসে আবৃত্তি করে মুগ্ধ করতেন। এবং তার স্ত্রী ছিলেন ফার্স্ট ক্লাস ফার্স্ট, ওরই ব্যাচে। এবং যাবার আগের দিন বুঝলেন, স্ত্রীর কাছে মেঘদূত মূল কাব্যগ্রন্থের পাঠ শুনেছেন। 2020 সালে 19 অক্টোবর তিনি চলে যান। তার ছেলে রাজীব বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায়, শিপ্রা বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায়, রাজন্য কন্যা, অর্কদীপ পুত্র অনিন্দিত বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায়, তার মানে এসব দ্বিতীয় আর কি প্রজন্ম। রাজীব, তার স্ত্রী, তার কন্যা, তার পুত্র, এদের পৃষ্ঠপোষকতায় আয়োজিত। গিরিজাশঙ্কর, তিনি ছিলেন এক সুমহান ব্যক্তিত্ব, মিতভাষী, শুভ্র কেশ, অল হোয়াইট, হেয়ার্স আর অল হোয়াইট, সদাহাস্য। শুক্লাজি মিশনের সন্ন্যাসী মহারাজ বৃন্দ এবং অনেকের কাছে মিস্টার শুক্লা নামে পরিচিত। শুক্লাজি 1899 খ্রিস্টাব্দের 4 এপ্রিল উত্তরপ্রদেশের ফতেপুর জেলার খাজুয়া গ্রামে এক রক্ষণশীল ব্রাহ্মণ পরিবারে জন্মগ্রহণ করেন। ছোটবেলায় মাত্র 3 বছর বয়সে তিনি মাকে হারান। হি লস্ট হিজ মাদার when he was at 3. 7 বছর বয়সে পিতৃহারা, লস্ট হিজ ফাদার when he was 7. কাকার পরিবারে লালিত পালিত হন। ধর্মীয়, সাংস্কৃতিক, তাত্ত্বিক মহাপুরুষদের জীবনী সংক্রান্ত বিষয়ের পাঠক হয়ে ওঠেন তিনি। দক্ষিণ পূর্ব রেলওয়েতে শিক্ষানবিশ হিসেবে যোগ দেন। কঠোর পরিশ্রম, কর্মনিষ্ঠার ফলে অবসর সময়ে তিনি ডিভিশনাল অফিসার পদে উন্নীত হন এবং দক্ষিণ পূর্ব রেলওয়ের প্রধান অফিস গার্ডেন ডিস্ট থেকে অবসর নেন, প্রধান অফিস থেকে। সে সময় খুব কম সংখ্যক ভারতীয় এই পদে ছিলেন। তিনি সেই সময়কার নিয়ম অনুযায়ী তিনি পেনশন প্রাপক ছিলেন না। তার স্ত্রী ধার্মিক, সুগৃহিণী, গ্রামে থাকতে পছন্দ করতেন। আমরা তার স্ত্রীকে দেখিনি। তার কন্যা এবং এক পুত্র এবং 2 কন্যা। তার পুত্র ওএনজিসি ডিরেক্টর হিসেবে অবসর গ্রহণ করেন। 2 কন্যার মধ্যে বড় মেয়ে রেলওয়ে অফিসারের সাথে, ছোট মেয়ের আর্মি ডাক্তারের সাথে বিবাহ হয়। শুক্লাজি ডিভিশনাল অফিসারের পদে থাকাকালীন বিভিন্ন সমাজসেবামূলক কাজের সঙ্গে রেলকর্মীদের সাথে হেল্প দি প্যাসেঞ্জার স্কোয়াড গঠন করেন। 1959 রেলের চাকরি থেকে অবসর নিয়ে কলকাতার লেক রোডে থাকতেন এবং প্রাতঃভ্রমণ করতেন। ঘটনাক্রমে রামকৃষ্ণ মিশনের একজন ভক্ত, তিনি তৎকালীন নরেন্দ্রপুর আশ্রমের সম্পাদক স্বামী লোকেশ্বরজি মহারাজের সঙ্গে শুক্লাজির পরিচয় করিয়ে দেন এবং বলেন তিনি বিনা পারিশ্রমিকে জনকল্যাণমূলক কাজে নিয়োজিত হতে চান। তাকে মহারাজ ইনস্টিটিউট অফ সোশ্যাল এডুকেশন অ্যান্ড রিক্রিয়েশন, ISER, এই সংস্থাটিতে আমাদের ওখানে আছে, এখনও আছে, হয়তো আমি আর 12-13 বছর নেই সেখানে, যোগ দিতে বলেন এবং কর্মী ভবনে থাকার ব্যবস্থা করেন। স্বামী প্রভানন্দজি মহারাজ তখন মিশনের ইনস্টিটিউট অফ সোশ্যাল এডুকেশন অ্যান্ড রিক্রিয়েশনের ডিরেক্টর ছিলেন। মহারাজের উপদেশে নির্দেশে শুক্লাজি দূরবর্তী বিভিন্ন গ্রাম কেন্দ্রে রাস্তাঘাট সারাই করাতেন, বয়স্ক শিক্ষার প্রসার ঘটাতেন, দুস্থ ও দরিদ্র গ্রামবাসীদের জন্য ত্রাণের ব্যবস্থা শুরু করতেন। তার নতুন জীবনের অধ্যায় শুরু হয় এবং বিবেকানন্দ চ্যালেঞ্জ শিল্ড, রামকৃষ্ণ মেলা, কৃষি মেলা, এইসব তিনি শুরু করে দিয়ে গেছিলেন। এই মেলাটা এখন কৃষ্ণচন্দ্রপুর গ্রামে স্থানান্তরিত হয়। মুমুক্ষানন্দজি এবং স্বামী অশোকানন্দজি মহারাজের সঙ্গেও সেবা করেছেন তিনি বীরেশ্বরানন্দজির কাছ থেকে দীক্ষা গ্রহণ করেন। আজীবন রামকৃষ্ণ মিশন আশ্রম নরেন্দ্রপুর পরিচালক সমিতির সদস্যও ছিলেন। শুক্লাজি প্রতি বছর রামকৃষ্ণ, মা সারদা দেবী এবং স্বামী বিবেকানন্দের জীবনী নিয়ে ইংরেজিতে একটি সর্বভারতীয় রচনা প্রতিযোগিতার আয়োজন করতেন। কর্মই পূজা তার জীবনের আদর্শ। এই গ্রামীণ উন্নয়নের স্বার্থে যুবকদের উদ্বুদ্ধ, শিক্ষিত করে তাদের মাধ্যমেই গ্রামের উন্নতি সম্ভব, একথা তিনি মনে প্রাণে বিশ্বাস করতেন। অর্থনৈতিকভাবে আত্মনির্ভরশীল হওয়ার জন্য বিভিন্ন প্রকল্পের মধ্যে টেলরিং শপ বিশেষ পরিধানযোগ্য। অন্তত 12-14টা 20-25টা মেশিন থাকতো। ওখানে একটা শেড আছে, এখন আমি জানি না কি হয়েছে না হয়েছে, কিন্তু সেখানে দিনরাত এসব কাজ হতো। এবং তিনি বয়স্ক শিক্ষার মাধ্যমে কীরকম সাকসেস পেয়েছিলেন দেখুন, সেখানে পড়ে লেখাপড়া শিখে ব্যাংক এবং বিভিন্ন অফিসে চাকরি পেয়েছে অনেকেই, যার জন্য এখানে কেউ কেউ হয়তো আছেন সেখানে, অনেক মানুষ উপকৃত। এবং ওই নরেন্দ্রপুরের আশেপাশে চৌহাটি যারা নাম শুনেছেন, চৌহাটিতে ওদের একটা আশ্রমও আছে। সেই আশ্রমে শুক্লাজির ছবি পুজো হয়, শুক্লাজির ছবি নাকি, এবং তারা আপনি দেবতা বলে পাবেন। Even now they look upon him as a god and they worship him. They keep the photo and maintain it with all seriousness. ব্লাইন্ড বয়েজ একাডেমির সঙ্গে তার যোগ ছিল। 1886 নভেম্বরে তিনি রামকৃষ্ণ যাত্রা করেন। এবং তিনি যখন চলে যান, আমি খুব কষ্ট পেয়েছিলাম এই জন্য যে আমি ঠিক তার 1 বছর আগে ওখানে সেক্রেটারি হই। He used to bless me, well, you will go many a mile. Oh, Baba, how is it? গিরিজাশঙ্কর শুক্লার স্মারক বক্তৃতা, শুক্লাজির সরল গুণমুগ্ধ বন্ধু পরিবার যুব সমাজকে গ্রামোন্নয়নের কাজে উদ্বুদ্ধ করার জন্য বিশেষ করে প্রপৌত্র শ্রী সুধীর কুমার মিশ্র, হি ইজ নাও দি প্রফেসর অফ IIT কানপুর, হি হ্যাজ কাম, এবং তার স্ত্রী শ্রীমতী বৎসলা মিত্র, তাদের 2 কন্যা তিশা মিত্র এবং মিশ্র এবং তরা মিশ্র এবং স্বামী নিশান্ত, এদের পৃষ্ঠপোষকতায় আয়োজিত। এবং এই বক্তৃতা আজকে দেবেন স্বামী সর্বস্থানন্দজি মহারাজ, মিনিস্টার ইনচার্জ রামকৃষ্ণ বেদান্ত সেন্টার, Buckinghamshire, UK. His topic is Globalizing Indian Thought. Globalizing Indian Thought. Indian thought is singularly called the spiritual thought. The knowledge has been divided into 2 parts. One is secular knowledge, leading to perfection in our day-to-day life. But knowledge in the spiritual aspect of ours will lead to purity, divinity. And this divinity actually results in oneness of existence. So there is no enmity amongst us. The whole world is one. And it is Swamiji who started this job, started this work. And we have all been carrying out in our, as far as practicable in our own, not in our own way, but in our own capacity. The way he has fixed for us, and we have to do it. There are problems, atrocities are everywhere, we may be attacked, we may be killed even, but it would never stop. It would never stop. The next life also we shall start. That much faith we have, because that is the only way to live in peace and harmony. We have to encourage this oneness of existence, leading to toleration and acceptance. Not toleration as such, but we accept others as our very own. So body, mind, they are all different. In bodies and in mind and thought, we are all different. But when we go to sleep, and in sleep we transcend all limitations, all sorts of polarities. We are one. That oneness of our existence, that is consciousness. That is the moot point of the external world also, the physical universe also. Swamiji says that science has proved that there is unity in matter, but it is Indian spiritual leaders, rishis, they prove that there is oneness in man, there is unity in man. And these two unities are no different. They are one consciousness. So that idea has to be made a global idea. So work already started with Swamiji. We have to carry it out. That's it. And here I request Professor Sudhir Kumar Mishra, his great-grandson, Sudhir Kumar Mishra, to give the vote of thanks by way of, say, reminiscing is some of the intimate incidents that happened with his dear great-grandfather. Kindly come and be seated over here. He is a professor of civil engineering, Kanpur University, Kanpur IIT. Now I request Swami Sarvasthananda ji, minister in charge. We call them minister. They are not mantri as such. They cater to the people, the spiritual ministration, spiritual guidance. At this young age, he has become a guru, a teacher, by the grace of Holy Mother and Thakur. That's a great achievement on his part, and we rejoice it. He is so humble, so pure, and so perfect also. So, Swami Sarvasthananda Ji Maharaj, subject, Globalizing Indian Thought. Kindly.
Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharini. Revered Swami Supernanandji Maharaj, other monks, brahmacharis and distinguished guests as well as devotees of Ramakrishna Vivekananda. It's a privilege to be here speaking on a topic which was so dear to Swami Vivekananda. In fact, Revered Supernanandji Maharaj very nicely summarized it. What are the thoughts that need to be globalized? Globalizing Indian thought is very good, but not everything Indian can be globalized. India stands for certain values, spiritual values, eternal spiritual values, which Swami Vivekananda and before him many other prophets, many Buddha and others, they succeeded in globalizing. So, which are the thoughts that need to be globalized? That's a very important, pertinent point. And when Revered Maharaj asked me to speak and suggest a topic, I suggested this topic for a very particular, special reason. A few months ago, in University College London, the Senate Hall, the famous Senate Hall, a very big event was held. And it was held by Professor Debashish Chatterjee, who is one of the youngest directors of IIM Kozhikode, Calicut. Calicut is now known as Kozhikode. And he was in IIM Kolkata and Lucknow also before that. And he, every year, used to organize a global conclave on this particular theme, Globalizing Indian Thought. And most of the time, he would be inviting our Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister suggested to him that why don't you hold this event outside India? It is easy to organize this event in India, but if you want to really globalize Indian thought, you should go to the heart of Western culture, because British ruled us for so many years. So if we can hold a successful conclave on the same theme, every year he organizes Globalizing Indian Thought. So he decided to hold it for the first time outside India in London. And he asked me, who are the global Indians, born in India or at least of Indian origin, who can voice this message? What are the Indian thoughts that need to be globalized? Because they are global citizens now. Many of them are CEOs of big multinational corporations. Some of them are eminent educationists, London School of Economics, Lord Meghnad Desai, they are even in the Parliament, the House of Lords in UK. So they have definitely done something on the global stage. And they can voice India's message. Maybe they are good enough to voice India's message. So they were invited, a lot of speakers, Lord Meghnad Desai and others. Many of the Indians, so most of the speakers were Indians who have made their presence felt in a globalized world. And I was a bit amused and surprised when they shared their thoughts. They could think of nothing better. Great people. I really respect their pursuit of knowledge and the achievements that they have made in their respective fields, whether it is economics, whether it is science and technology. The great Indians, they have done India proud as ambassadors in a scientific field or whichever field they have excelled. But as far as the key thoughts which revered Maharaj referred to now, what does India stand for? What is the thought, the primary thought that needs to be globalized? Very sorry to say, and I was a bit sad also, that nobody touched upon our eternal spiritual values. You know, the two things that prominently came up, the way they thought, Indian ideas, Indian thoughts have been globalized. They gave two examples, and I felt really sad. They said two thoughts or two things have made India popular all over the world. And I was shocked beyond imagination when they said it is Bollywood and IPL. I said, my God, now is this what India stands? They may be very popular in the world. This film industry and this cricket, it's a craze, no doubt, and everybody knows. But that is not Indian thought that needs to be globalized. So I thought, let me just find out, and of course I did because I was one of the speakers, so I tried my best to say whatever I could. But I told them what Rabindranath Tagore told Roma Rolla many years ago when he wanted to know something about India. He said, if you want to know India, what Indian thought is, read Vivekananda. That was the suggestion Rabindranath Tagore gave Roma Rolla in one of his letters when he wanted to write a biography perhaps, and he wrote about Mahatma Gandhi as well as Ramakrishna. Vivekananda, everyone knows. So he suggested we have to see India through Swami Vivekananda's eyes if we want to have a correct picture of what India stands for, what distinguishes India from other cultures, what's India's contribution to the world. That is why a revered Swami Ranganathanji of hallowed memory used to insist that everyone should read the lectures from Colombo to Almora, because there he spoke about how India can be a Vishwa Guru in the real sense, not in the economic, socio-political sense. Not as a superpower or maybe military power or even economic superpower that we are achieving, but that is not what India those are not the values which will make India the Vishwa Guru. India has to provide spiritual light as it has always done, and this message he gave in a place 5 miles from our center in Bourne. There is a place known as Maidenhead, Pinckney's Green, where Swamiji stayed for a few days. There was Swami Shardanandji, Swami Abhedanandji, Henrietta Muller, who gave money to buy the Belur Math land, one of the English disciples, and there were some other American disciples. They were sipping tea, and Mahendranath Datta records in his book, wonderful book, Londone Vivekananda. He says in that at 3 o'clock, this was exactly what he has quoted in his book. He said Swamiji was sipping tea and suddenly went into a trance. The great prophet who represented Indian spiritual thought suddenly said something prophetic. And he was not in his normal senses, he was in a high spiritual state. And he says, it has been so difficult in this life as compared to the previous life. They were not aware what Swamiji is saying. What is the previous life he is referring to, and what he wants to do in this life, sitting there in London, just a few miles away from London. Then he said, but I shall not give up. I shall struggle and work hard till my last breath. There was a few years before he entered into Mahasamadhi. He was determined to do something, leave an impact on the globe, on the entire world. And he was in a hurry. That's why he just crisscrossed London and America and Europe. And he seemed to be in a hurry. He even told Sturdy, I have very little time with me. And this is the great mission which he set out to achieve. That is globalizing Indian spiritual thought, which he said is not the first time that I am doing. Buddha has done before. Every time the world has come together by military conquest or by any other method, Indian spiritual thought has always found its way and spiritualized and saved civilizations. That is what he wanted to convey. And he said, civilization, these are the words he used. I don't know the exact Bengali because Mahendranath Datta wrote it in Bengali. He writes, civilization or civilizational thought has to be turned upside down. And that is my mission. That means sitting in the heart of the United Kingdom, that is near London, he says, in those days, you remember, we were colonized by the English people. At that time, he had that ambition, that power was within him, which said that civilizational thought has to be turned upside down, and I will do it, he said. I will do it till my last breath, I will work. So that was his global mission. That was his thoughts, which he expressed through the Colombo to lectures from Colombo to Almora, where he asked the youth, he beckoned them, he said, you have to spiritualize the entire world. That is the mission for which India has survived for so many centuries and is surviving and will survive. Nobody can destroy India if it does not give up its spiritual ways. So basically that is a warning he gave. If India gives up its spirituality, in 3 generations will vanish from the face of the earth. So that is the real India that he wanted to, the Indian thought that he wanted to globalize. In the past, globalization meant something else. Rome, Swami Vivekananda himself, when he was traveling with his Western disciples to Amarnath, he suddenly stopped and told his disciples, women disciples, that he says 3 big powers or 3 big thought powers or civilizations have shaped history. And though they are Roman civilization, Greek civilization, and the Indian civilization, Oriental civilization. And he says they have left a permanent impact on the entire world. You can't deny that. And he said you have to give credit to the other 2 civilizations also for developing one part of the global order, world order. But India's role is different. He said it is because of the Romans for whom globalization means conquering all the nations and uniting them. Many efforts were made, he said, in the past to unite the world globally. That is one type of globalization, physically conquering through armies. Was that the globalization Swamiji wanted? Definitely not. That was the role which Roman civilization tried to contribute. And then he said they gave the world parliamentary democracy, so many things, administration, politics and administration was what they contributed to the world. But that is a gross thing. But then, because of their cruelty, he said the Roman civilization collapsed. Then he said the Greek civilization gave the world. We have to accept the fact that they gave the world art, sciences and culture, technology and all those things through Europe and later through America and other countries. So we cannot deny the contribution of the Greeks to develop that scientific temper. And the world is a much better place provided the science and technology is used in a positive way. So they had their contribution to make, and we cannot deny that it has left an impact, just as the Romans have left an impact, the different types of isms, the democratic, the administration, the excellence in administration and politics they had. That has to be acknowledged. So also the Greek contribution has to be acknowledged. These are Swamiji's words. And then he said, the tendency to trivialize civilization, that is through promiscuity, which led to the downfall of Europe. When he said Europe is sitting on, he spoke of materialism, he said Europe is sitting on the top of a volcano. And you see 2 world wars. They showed how science and technology, if they are misused, could create havoc. And he said Europe is sitting on the top of a volcano. It's only Indian spirituality that can save Europe. So that is how he prophesied. That this Indian spirituality, whenever the world has been globalized by marching armies or by economic and technological power, the world has become a global village. We cannot deny science and technology, communication. Now when we speak of globalization, what we mean is this interconnectedness has increased in the physical world, in the mental world. You can communicate, artificial intelligence, so many great contributions have been made by the Western civilization. Swamiji anticipated that, and in fact he wanted India also to take some get the benefit of these 2 great civilizations. But he said, our primary goal, as Revered Maharaj mentioned, in this new globalized world order is spirituality. So that's why in that conclave, at the end I said, it's very good you have the enthusiasm to come to London and maybe you'll go to New York and try to globalize the whole world. But first, I think I told Devashish Babu that first we have to globalize or maybe Indianize Indian people. That is more necessary. Most of the people who live, Indians who are born Indians, they are living there and they don't have a very clear picture, and they cannot get that clear picture of what India really stands for. What is its role in globalization? What is its role in the world? Then they have to look at India through Swami Vivekananda's eyes. In Vedanta Kesari, for the last 4 years, 4 pages, it's a small, I don't know how many of you read that. The whole lectures from Colombo to Almora has been simplified and given as 4 pages. In every issue there are 4 pages. Each lecture has been taken, maybe 2-3 installments. Every month, Understanding India through Swami Vivekananda's eyes. This is the book. Now it's going to be published soon. So it was published in Vedanta Kesari since 20. It has 3 years, so many issues. Every key thought which Swamiji gave. Globalizing, understanding India, trying to understand India through Swamiji's eyes. Only then we can aspire, every Indian who either in India or outside, Now there's no such thing because physically distances have been eliminated because of internet. Whatever you do here goes, it becomes globalized within no time, thanks to information and communication technology. So that we have achieved. It's easy to globalize thoughts now. But what is required is to understand which of the Indian thoughts need to be globalized. That is important. And first, Indians should equip themselves, because wherever they go, whether they go as CEOs of big companies, scientists, doctors, you can find Indians everywhere. Everywhere, any country you go, you'll find Indians there. Highly skilled Indians. But have they understood? Have they tried to understand what India stands for? Because they are ambassadors of India. Wherever they go, they will leave an impact. People will see India through the eyes of the people who go abroad and also who live in India. So, Indianization of Indian thought, I told them, maybe it is too early for you all to hold this conclave in a foreign country. First, you continue and try to see that Swamiji's thoughts, at least, because he has understood India. He was India personified. It would be not an exaggeration to say, and even his Western disciples said, he was India personified. So if we want to know anything about India, as Tagore said, we have to understand it through Vivekananda's eyes. And then only we can speak with authority. These are all his thoughts. We can claim to understand anything about India, its glorious past, its glorious future which he predicted, and the way we should conduct ourselves in our individual lives, in our family life, in our social life, and especially when we go abroad. So globalizing Indian thought is possible only if we internalize those Indian thoughts which has given us a unique identity. So Swami Vivekananda, in that trip when he was going to Amarnath with the Western disciples, he suddenly stopped and said, the impact of Greek thought has left an indelible impression on the entire world. You can't change it. The Romans have left their impact. And the third civilization, which has always left its impact, but very silently, like the silent dew. We don't do it with so much of publicity and other things. Very silently our spiritual thought, directly or indirectly. Swami Vivekananda himself started it, and before him, as he said, Buddha had a message. I have a message to the West as Buddha had a message to the East. Of course, Buddha's influence was felt more in the Far East and China and other countries. But he was the first, you may say, global spiritual leader who went outside the boundaries, whose message went outside the boundaries. And before that also, Indian thought, the Upanishads, the thoughts of Vedanta, directly or indirectly to the German scholars, they have, our Oriental thoughts have found their way, either through the Middle East or directly through Europe. It has impacted a lot of civilizations. But now it is for Indians to be very aggressive. So globalizing Indian thought is a very good idea, but we have to be equipped, as Swamiji said. First, try to make India, deluge India with spiritual ideas. So I said, he was saying that they want to Indianize the whole of management, at least in IIM Kozhikode. They have set a target. He was saying by 2047, Indian ethos for modern management. Professor S.K. Chakravarti started it in Kolkata, IIM Kolkata, but they want to do it on a global scale. Said we also have great ideas. We can introduce Indian ethos in modern management. Then he was asked by our Prime Minister to do it at many levels, not just management. Other sciences also we can Indianize. But more important, what the point they are missing is, it's not the sciences and management and other secular, as Maharaj said, there is a Paravidya and Aparavidya. The secular field, let others excel. We can even borrow from them. But when it comes to spirituality, that is where our uniqueness lies. And that needs to be globalized more. I said, if we understand this, if we understand Vivekananda properly, he wanted these ideas to be globalized. Let the world come together through science, through technology, through other methods. They are coming together. Swamiji says you cannot avoid it. Physically also, science has proved that we are one. Physically we are one. You cannot, each atom, Swamiji himself says, at the physical level, each atom drags the entire universe behind it. Now all latest research in quantum physics and other sciences, they are pointing to the same fact, that even at a gross level, at the subatomic level, we are one. That oneness is there, as Maharaj rightly pointed out. But true oneness is at the level of the spirit. And that is a discovery which India has made, and that has to be emphasized. Behind all these processes of unification, trying to unify, unified field theory, there are so many theories coming up. They are trying to unify things, make things universal. But the universal idea is at a much more primary level, that is consciousness. That is the greatest discovery, Prajnanam Brahma. So in Cambridge there is a scientist who got a Nobel Prize. He was very much enthusiastic. He is 90 years old, but still very active. He said, Swamiji, can we not have a platform, a website where people from all disciplines, taking this basic idea, he is very much deeply interested in consciousness studies. Even at the age of 90, he says, can I learn Sanskrit now? I want to learn Pali and Sanskrit so that we can learn many ideas of consciousness in the original. Imagine enthusiasm of this Brian Josephson is his name. He got Nobel Prize long ago for laser, some research he did in laser and other things. But even he says, can we have a platform where scientists, biologists, everyone comes together and shares their idea of fundamental unity behind this universe, as Vedanta says. Of course, he had not read Swami Vivekananda. I said, see, Swami Vivekananda spoke of it much earlier. He said, science is uniting us, trying to find out a common unification of energy. Everywhere unification is being attempted. But the basic unification which India discovered can take place, more sustainable unification at the level of consciousness. So consciousness is primary. Now there are so many wonderful people, scientists trying to find out what consciousness is. They have to come to Indian spiritual thought. Only India can provide that wonderful ideas of grand unification of both spiritual and secular. And Swami Vivekananda told these 4 women disciples who were accompanying him, he said, India has to take a leading role, and these 3 forces have to be put together. Then we will have a grand global civilization. The Greek excellence in science and arts and technology, the Roman excellence contribution in politics, administration and social experiments with how to rule society, and third, the Indian excellence in spirituality minus its impracticality. He said Indians, theoretically they were very good, but when it comes to apply, that is why in the London lectures, Practical Vedanta, Seeing God in Everything, Swamiji answered those questions. India has the greatest philosophy in the world, the Upanishads, but it has to be practical, made practical, living in our day-to-day life. That's why his whole attempt was to make these Vedantic truths accessible to a layman, so that they can work it out in their day-to-day life. And he said, when these 3 civilizations, these are Swamiji's words, when these 3 forces come together, we will have a truly global civilization. Then the women disciples asked him, Swamiji, that task is so difficult. How to bring these contradictory thoughts, the Western materialism, Indian spirituality, who will do it? And he just made a small remark, we don't know what he meant by that. He said it has to be done by women. Perhaps he meant the mothers will give it this grand unification of these three streams of civilizational streams to their children, who will become in future global citizens. That's why I might have pointed to the mothers, because mothers take the civilization, they are responsible for handing over civilizational values to their children. So he said, why? It should be done by women, and he stopped. He didn't explain further. So the Western disciples, most of them were women disciples. So this is a remark he made, and that was a dream he had, that India will play its role in the globalization of the entire world. It will become a Vishwaguru, but not in any other field. That is not our... It has already been globalized. We have World Economic Forum, we have United Nations, politically so many bodies are there, but none of them are effective because the spiritual unity is missing. This has to be supplied by India. That is Swami Vivekananda's dream. And he wanted the young of people. That's why Swami Ranganathanji was an ambassador for so many years. He used to travel all around the world. And he used to say that these wonderful words of Swamiji, especially the lectures from Colombo to Almora, the letters, we have to study that. First, know what India stands for. What are the eternal values that made us great? Not only great, but survive so many onslaughts. So many, the Mughal rule, then the English rule, so many powers came and politically subjugated us. For centuries we suffered. Poverty, economic crisis, so many things. One of the richest countries till the 16th century was reduced to such a poor nation. But still, he says, still India survives. It survives not because of the other two powers, which the Greek and the Romans have given. They were powerful once upon a time. He says, where is Rome now? What has happened to that great capital in hills? All these countries have almost vanished from the face of the earth, but India still survives. It survives because of its spirituality. And he says, the day we give this spirituality up, it will vanish. He says, in 3 generations you will vanish from the face of the earth. So we have to be very careful in the name of secular advancement. If we give up our roots, especially Indians outside, especially the Indians in the United Kingdom and all, they want to revive something, but they don't know what exactly India stands for. Pure spirituality is nowhere to be found. The basic ideas of Swamiji. So many rituals are being revived. Nothing wrong in that. If you see the idea of religion or the idea of spirituality, most of the Indians who have settled abroad, they want some connection, some cultural, spiritual connection. They think doing certain rituals and observing certain rituals, they have Indianized themselves. Now, Swamiji wanted us to spiritualize ourselves. Spirituality is the core of our religion. Other religions also were great. They are still great. But that is because of the spiritual core within, not because of the external things that define their religions. All religions have a spiritual core. He says, keep it intact, try to imbibe those values, try to implement in your own life, and then you will see you can become truly global ambassadors, and you can really globalize Indian thought. So today I thought I suggested this topic to Revered Maharaj because I felt sad after attending that global conclave. So much money they spent and so much of grandeur. In Lord's Stadium also they did. I thought it would be a great place where we could create a wonderful impact. But without Swamiji, without Swami Vivekananda's ideas, without Indian spiritual thought, no attempt at globalization. That's what I realized. I realized the warning Swami Vivekananda gave. By imitation, you will never become great. He told us, you have to strengthen yourself in the basic elements or values of your own culture, which have sustained you through centuries. Every lecture from Colombo to Almora, he is shouting. Every letter he wrote to Alasinga, he said, spiritualize India first, spiritualize India first. We think we are already spiritual. It's wrong. We have to learn to really imbibe spirituality from so many complex things which define our religion today. Especially when you go abroad, when you go to the West, you understand. They are desperate to learn, and everybody who goes there gives them something in the name of spirituality which is maybe religious but may not be spiritual. So they are yearning for that. In fact, some Western disciples who come to our Vedanta centers, they can read through this. They said, we don't come for all these things. It's a kind of sanctified socializing that you do. In the name of religion, you come together, do all sorts of food and other things. It's just socializing, but sanctified socializing. They don't want, they see through it and they said, no, we want something fundamental. Swami, can you give us that? Can you give us tangible spirituality? It's a challenge because first we have to acquire it. You can't just give spirituality. You have to work hard. Every one of us have to work, as Swamiji pointed out, through the 4 yogas. We have to imbibe those values first within ourselves. Then we can convey those ideas. We do not even have to speak our lives, as Swami Turiyananji, when Swami Vivekananda spoke so much, he had to work so hard. Then he sent Turiyananji to the West. And then he said, I'll send you somebody who will live the life that I spoke of. I gave you the ideas. But I'm sending you somebody who will live Vedanta and he will live amongst you. Maybe it is a small group, but they will live those values and show, they'll give an actual demonstration. The disciples of Thakur who went to the West, Trigunatitanji, Swami Shardanji went for some time, Abhedanji spent such a long time. So they really globalized Indian thought because they just followed the path of Swami Vivekananda, who was a pioneer. There's a wonderful book. I was very happy to get a copy. Shivatosh Bagchi wrote a book published by Institute of Culture. I was so happy because he has worked so hard to the pioneers of the Ramakrishna movement in the West. So it's a nice book, how they struggled in the initial stages. You see our own center in 48. With 10 pounds in his pocket, he was asked to stay. He was in Mauritius, revered Swami Ghananandji was our founder. Just 10 pounds in his pocket. He did not know where to eat, where to stay. Just like Swamiji when he went to the West. They have struggled so, these pioneers, just by the force of their spirituality and of course Thakur's and Swamiji's and Mother's grace, slowly, brick by brick they built. If you see the wonderful history of how the Vedanta movement, for Swamiji it was easy, he was a prophet, a world prophet who could just create an impact by his mere presence. But the Swamis who went after him, they had to struggle. They had to struggle a lot. Even Swamiji had to struggle, but the pioneering work they did, the foundation upon which now all our centers in the West are established, that takes a lot of struggle. Trigunatitanji went to the West. He gave his life. A crazy Western disciple of his threw a bomb. He was standing on the pulpit and he gave his life for Thakur's work. Not only struggled, how much hard he had to struggle. Turiyanji lived in the Shanti Ashrama, meditating day and night. Swamiji said, you just go and live the life. You don't have to give lectures, give talks, because that is what they want. That is what the world wants. What true spirituality is. And this is real globalization. It may take time. It may not be a movement which will spread very fast. You see the movement when Prabhavanji and all the Swamis who went to America and England and every one of them took so much time. Now things have become very easy. We have the media and other things. Things are spreading very fast. But we can't say the quality is the same. Because these are just ideas. Listening to YouTube, wonderful talks, that's not going to help. One has to live. Then only it will create an impact. The way Swamiji did, the way the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, some of whom who gave their lives, they stayed, they created a center of spirituality. Our own Swami Ganananji was Mahapurush Maharaj's disciple. If you just see the history, how much he had to struggle, how much his health failed. He died of diabetes, 48, with no money in his pocket. Imagine the movement growing, each of the centers abroad, if you see. So it's not an easy task to globalize Indian thought. First of all, we have to internalize Indian thought, become aware of what are the essential thoughts, then try to live it in our own life, generate. That's why Swamiji says, out of purity and silence comes the word of power. The power that Christ had, the power that Buddha had, that was born out of deep spiritual experience. Then only it will create a lasting impact. We are in a hurry to try to spread these messages, these ideas. Ideas are very good, but they should not remain frozen in our brains. That is what Swamiji wanted, that he wanted that it's not only enough to learn what India stands for, but to live that life and create an impact. It may be slow, but he says, like the gentle dew which bears the fairest of roses. We don't see the dew impacting, but the beautiful roses that you see in the morning, they are because of the gentle dew which silently has nourished these plants at night when nobody sees. And then you see the beautiful roses. So he says the impact of Indian thought is like that. It may not be have a external appearance that it's conquering something like the big armies that conquered the Roman armies, Alexander and all. You won't see any external glory, but it is the glory of the spirit. Swami Vivekananda, I'll close with this. Swami Vivekananda once said, somebody asked him, how do you know that civilization is progressing? There are so many ideas. Sociologists, historians have their own idea that civilizational progress means this: political power or economic power, social experiments, all those things are wonderful. But Swamiji's definition is one of the most basic definition of civilizational progress or global progress, which we have to understand. He says, he gives a beautiful definition of civilizational progress. He says, civilization is the progressive reading of spirit into matter. The more spirit dominates over matter, the more that civilization flourishes. And that is India. India had glory, external glory. We were good in economics, we were good in politics, we had some of the biggest empires of the world. We had a GDP which was equal to no other country. We had the highest GDP till the 16th. Economic progress was there. Many things were there. India was glorious for many other things. But he said the more we read spirit into matter, that results in civilizational. That is civilization. The more you read spirit. Jesus read spirit into matter. That is why the spiritual empire of Christianity conquered the whole Rome within a few centuries. It was the spirit of Christ that conquered. It was not armies. They didn't have to fight. The whole mighty Roman Empire, they say, 12 fishermen, Swamiji says, blew up the Roman Empire. They were not soldiers. They were just 12 basic disciples who through their spiritual lives conquered, and the whole of Rome got converted to Christianity. That is how Swami Vivekananda said, our spirituality, when we develop that spiritual power within. Sri Ramakrishna was the center, and he said, India needs to rally around Sri Ramakrishna's name if it has to grow, if it has to make progress. We need a personality. Ideas are good. Vedantic ideas are good. But is there a person who is a living example of Vedanta? He says, my master said, that's why I placed the Sri Ramakrishna's ideal before you, the people of India. If you accept it, it's a broad highway. There are many ways to reach God, but this is the broad highway Sri Ramakrishna has made for us. And I place Sri Ramakrishna in the lectures from Colombo to Almora. He says, he is the spiritual ideal for this age, who can unite not only India, globalize India, but globalize the entire world with his message, and more importantly by his own life. So that is why once, before we even think of India's contribution to the world, trying to globalize the world, you have to read Sri Ramakrishna's life, the great master especially, and also Holy Mother's life, who literally lived. She was an excellent example of practical Vedanta. Vedanta lived in the day-to-day life of a simple village individual. How Vedanta could be lived, the highest Vedanta could be lived in our day-to-day life. That is what Holy Mother showed. And Swamiji, of course, expounded Sri Ramakrishna's ideas and truly took Sri Ramakrishna to the entire world. So we Indians have a duty, as Swamiji said, to preserve the spiritual culture for future civilizations, not only India but for the entire global culture that is going, global civilization that has come into existence now. He says India has to play its part, and that is the greatest contribution she has to make. And I take this opportunity to thank Revered Maharaj for giving me this opportunity to share a few thoughts, because I have been in the West only for 7 years now. I am still trying to figure out what exactly is our role there. It takes a lifetime to even figure out. By the time our pioneers found out, I think they had to struggle so much that they could do very little. But they are passing on the baton to the future generations, and if we are wise enough, if we learn from their wonderful effort and experiences, maybe we can contribute a little towards Swamiji's spreading of Indian spiritual thought in foreign lands. But I can assure you, if there is a way, then it has to be the Vivekananda way. There is no other way. We have to rally around to understand the essence of spirituality, of Vedanta or any other system of the world, whether it's a Christian, Hindu, or any other person belonging to any other faith. Sri Ramakrishna's life and message gives the essence, tells us what a Christian, true Christian ought to be, what a true Muslim ought to be, what a true Hindu ought to be. And through his own wonderful life and experiences, all the truths that he realized, not just spoke. And of course, with the help of the wonderful explanation which Swami Vivekananda gave and Holy Mother's wonderful life, we can truly create a globalized civilization. That is how globalizing Indian thought will have some kind of relevance and meaning if we stick to the fundamentals that have been spelled out, lived in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, explained by Swamiji and also Holy Mother in such a beautiful way. Thank you.
Well, I was not prepared for this. I have to give the vote of thanks at the end of this mesmerizingly wonderful talk. Thank you, Swamiji, so much for sharing your thoughts and perhaps inspiring us to try to do whatever little we can to achieve this whole idea of globalizing Indian thought. And I'm a teacher, but for the last 30 years, I teach civil engineering at IIT Kanpur. And in all this teaching, finally, it has become more and more difficult to listen to a lecture. I can probably talk more than I can listen. But this was an exception, absolutely exception. It was very, very good for me to listen to it. And if I can take back a few things, I'll be so happy to do that. And a personal experience I'll just share with you is that what Swamiji said, that yes, Indians don't know India. And I admit that I was one of them. When I was in Japan, Swamiji, for 10 years, and when they asked me about India, and that was about 40 years ago, and is this what happens in India? Is that what happens in India? Because they've seen bits and pieces of India. And then I realized that, okay, wow, we cannot deny it, neither we can accept it. If somebody says that, okay, in India people do this, I cannot say yes and I cannot say no. And so on. So I mean, that kind of a realization that yes, we have that something which makes us Indian beyond whatever our divisions are. So anyway, that was one thing. And then coming to the second thing which Maharaj had asked me to share with you, my memory of my Nanaji, my grandfather, Girijashankar Shuklaji. See, I must admit that I was born in 1959. And my Nanaji moved to the Ramakrishna mission in 1959. Which means that I have, well, I wouldn't say absolutely no, but my contact with him was only in Narendpur. I used to come here. I came several times, and I went there today also. So, Narendpur probably knows him better than I do. So it was so touching to hear all the good things about him. And I must say that I'm humbled and so grateful to the mission to have given him an opportunity to do his work and supported him throughout his last 30 years. He passed away in 88. So, but one small conversation which I remember, I mean, that must have happened when I was probably 8 or 9 or 10, I don't know. I asked him that, we used to call him Bauji. So I asked him that, he said that, okay, I went to this person, he didn't give me money. I went to that person, he didn't give me money. And he has told me to come again tomorrow, and so on and so forth. So I asked him that, don't you feel bad? Do you feel kind of disappointed when businessmen, people, they don't respond to your request, cajoling, whatever it is? So he said, well, so long as your conscience is clear that you're not asking something for yourself, there is absolutely no shame in asking again and again. What you should remember is that if you're not able to persuade that person to part with a part of his wealth or whatever it is, or resources, the problem is in you of not being able to convince him that he should do this for that higher good. Now, that at that time I said, well, I mean, I didn't probably agree with it, I didn't realize it, but yes, that somewhere it just remained in my mind. So that's the only personal anecdote which I can probably share with you. And thank you all for being here as far as the lecture is concerned, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here and talk to you for a few moments. I'm so honored. I'm so humbled. And thank you all for being here. Thank you, Swami Sarvasthananda ji, for the enlightening talk. Thank you so much.